we are trying to buy firms that have assets under management between 500 million and 3 billion-ish.
Okay.
And we're also looking to do smaller acquisitions. So if we get a $3 billion firm and having perseverance, and also being personable and being able to build relationships. And you have to develop that hard skill set. I mean, it takes time to develop that. So it's kind of like second nature. You can't be shy. I mean, one thing you have to know is that if you don't ask, you don't get. The cream of the crop rises, or the cream rises to the top, people will understand. People all see it. And so those challenging situations, people can be tough. Like I said earlier, persevere, be gritty.
Okay.
Sometimes you're going to complain about it. Sometimes it's not going to be easy, and you can't always take the higher road. And you take a couple of steps back, and you get to a place where you may not want to be. You have to interview that company just like they're interviewing you. And get along really well with everyone, but don't make it too personal.
Don't make it too personal. Okay,
It's not a sorority or fraternity.
Okay, I see.
It's work.
It's work. Yeah. All right, guys. Welcome to another episode of Red Knot Podcast. I just want to do a quick reminder that we publish each second Monday at 7 a.m. so you can kickstart your week with some sort of insights. And today I would like to present you to my guest, my really good friend, Richard Sarhhadi. So Richard, can you actually tell us a little bit more what you do and what's your experience?
Sure. That's a loaded question. My experience is long. I've been practicing law for almost more than 20 years. But I'm the general counsel and chief compliance officer of a firm called Aspen Standard Wealth. We are an aggregator of RIAs, so it's a private equity-based firm where we're buying different registered investment advisors around the country, kind of creating a large organization of investment advisors. The interesting thing about how we do it, as opposed to other companies that do the same thing that are in the space like Mercer or Focus, we keep the registered investment advisory firm intact. We don't consume it or subsume it into our firm, so they still operate the way they've been operating for years. We just help them grow. That's the main point. And what we try to do is help them grow, reduce costs, make them more efficient, and hold them forever.
So you're basically one of those companies that have a lot of funds and buy another like private businesses and invest in them, trying to adjust the costs and all that stuff, and kind of like try to sell that after.
Right. No, we don't. We're not going to sell. We hold forever.
Forever.
We're a long-term investor in those businesses, and the goal is to really grow them. Most of those firms, they don't have marketing funds. They don't have the people to help them market and grow. They mostly grow through word of mouth. And we are going to apply marketing and technology and all kinds of other strategies to help them grow.
What's usually the average price of the company that you're buying? What's like your budget?
I mean, the prices we can't get into.
Okay.
But we are trying to buy firms that have assets under management between 500 million and 3 billion-ish.
Okay.
And we're also looking to do smaller acquisitions. So if we get a $3 billion firm, let's say wherever, in New York, we are going to try to do what's called a tuck-in or tuck-ins to help them grow. There's organic growth and there's inorganic growth. Inorganic growth is acquiring new firms or having advisors with books of business move to your firm. And then there's organic growth, which is just growing naturally through referrals, through marketing and advertising and that sort of thing. But our main kind of sweet spot is firms that have $3 billion in assets under management.
So, and what's your like main areas that you're trying to be focused on? What kind of companies are they? Is it like IT companies?
No. They're just investment advisory firms. So where you would go to a financial advisor, they have their own firm, just like a doctor may have their own doctor's office or specialization. You know, an orthopedic surgeon has their own office. These are firms where they are all financial advisors, and they're helping people save for retirement and save for their goals, and then do other more sophisticated things for more ultra high net worth investors where they're doing tax and estate planning and that sort of thing too.
All right, I see. And I would like to go a little bit back because I know that you've been doing them for over 25 years.
Well, this is new.
Okay.
This part of the industry is new. Working for the firm, the type of firm, the private equity type of firm I work for. What I'm charged with doing at the firm is not new, though. So what I'm there to do is help with being the legal person, the general counsel for our Aspen Standard Wealth, the holding company, as well as help be the legal service provider and sort of outsource general counsel to our firms that we buy, as well as provide a vast array of compliance services for them, because as they grow, they're going to be looked at by regulators in a different peer group. And so we want to set them up for success from a regulatory standpoint and make sure that they're complying with all the rules and regulations, and they're doing the testing they should be doing, and doing the oversight that they should be doing. And the firms that we're looking at all have very, very good records from a regulatory standpoint, but they are the types of firms that they're great where they are now, but where we want to take them, we need to lay the foundation now so that the regulators don't look at them as maybe a $500 million firm or $700 million firm. We need to prepare them for $1 billion, because at different asset tiers, generally regulators expect different levels of compliance programs, and because you're supposed to put more money into your program, and you're supposed to, as you grow, have more resources dedicated to that. So,
all right. So you're basically now you're doing compliance.
Both.
So you're a general counsel and you're at the same time doing compliance.
Right.
And if we go back to your early career, I know that you finished you got your bachelor in history.
Yep.
And why exactly in history? Can you tell us?
So when I was young, my parents were like many parents and said you should be a doctor or a lawyer.
Okay.
So I was pre-med in college and took all the science courses to be a doctor, but I also had a hedge built in because I also thought law was interesting, and history is one of the traditional majors that people do for becoming a lawyer. It's either that, another one is political science is traditional, but people do all kinds of stuff now.
Okay.
But back when I was going to school, those are the two traditional ones for people that wanted to go to law school.
Okay, so and you basically made this transition, right? From the history to more be focused on got your, how's it called, jury doctor?
Juris Doctor. So you go to 4 years of college.
Okay.
I went to Marquette University, and then I went to law school. That's a 3-year program, and you get it's called the Juris Doctor.
Okay, I see. And so can you actually tell us what was your first job and how did you get the first job? Because for many our viewers,
yes,
young people, you know, our podcast for young people,
yes,
so they're really struggling with the type of point.
Well, so you can't be discouraged. You can't be too discouraged in your job search. My first job wasn't even a legal job.
Okay.
It was just a job so I could make sure I can pay my law school loans.
Okay.
It was reasonably related to law. I worked at a company called CCH. They publish legal treatises and I guess magazines and those types of things on law.
Okay.
At that point in time, I was working on HIPAA, which is the Health Insurance Portability Act. I can't remember the whole name of it. And it was a new law that came out related to health insurance and really protecting health information of people, protecting the PHI, it's called Protected Health Information of everyone. Mm-hmm. And I helped write a book on that. But that was my first job. It was as low paying as it gets as you get out of law school without having a no job.
Yeah.
But I was able to take care of things and pay my law school loans back. And I mean, not in full, but just make the payments.
Okay.
And then while I looked for something that I really wanted to do, and I think that's what for young people out there you have to realize is that you're probably not going to get your dream job the first time or the second time. It's going to take some time, but you have to know what you want to do, and you want to know the area that you want to go into, especially if you're going into a profession like law or medicine or something like that. And you have to just stick with your guns in many ways. You have to be persistent. And so the second job that I got that was actually something in the area that I wanted to get was a firm called, well, I'm not going to name the firm, but it was a mutual fund company. It was a startup.
Well, it's a good one.
And it was interesting. It was a fun place to work. There was a lot of action going on, and I really learned a lot during that couple of years that I was there. It was, working very late hours. But learning every single day. And you have to absorb, and even if you're the low man on the totem pole like I was, but I also knew that I needed to really pay attention and focus to get the experience that I needed for later on in life. And I always draw, even now, I draw on experiences that I had at that point in time. And so it was a very good experience for me.
Kind of like advice to the young people. So you can't get your first job, your first job is not going to be that your dream job.
No, or your second or your third. You have to build up to it. It's a process. And many times in my career as well, I made a couple of steps forward, and then you take a couple of steps back, and you get to a place where you may not want to be, and it's not exactly, you may go back in pay or seniority or whatever, but I think that you have to just know deep down what you want and persevere. I mean, that's like I think grit and perseverance in life. You can be the smartest person, the most skilled person, but I think what's more important is being gritty and having perseverance, and also being personable and being able to build relationships, because over time, the relationship piece is going to kind of outdo if you have the technical expertise, that's kind of the baseline, but what differentiates people after you get to a certain level and you really start excelling is your personality and the network that you build.
You were trying to say that we're kind of like, first of all, you have to have some sort of like a hard skill set when you just start. But then you have to develop...
And you have to develop that hard skill set. I mean, it takes time to develop that. So it's kind of like second nature. You know the rules. You just know them. In my case. And you've gone through all of the many different experiences and permutations of applying those rules. So you have this background of knowledge and kind of somewhat wisdom at some point in time. I'm not going to say I'm wise, but you have this built up experience that you can draw upon. But I think once you have that and you have that base, it's all about going out there and meeting people in the industry that you want to be in, networking, building relationships, and you have to have soft skills. They call them soft skills, but you have to have a personality that people want to be around. And that's really a soft skill. That's what soft skills are to me.
All right, guys, I just want to do a quick reminder that this podcast has the only one lifetime sponsor, and it's my agency, Base Agency. So if you're looking for some sort of website development, CRM system, backend development, or design for your logo, or let's say some sort of brand books, it's always our agency. We're really dedicated for, kind of looking the best solutions for our client, and we're always on your side. So we combine business, creativity, and your budget. Thank you. What do you believe in those like coffee chats? And right now it's gaining the popularity that people are kind of advising, go to, I don't know, like Wall Street and try to find that person.
I think that's part of grit and perseverance. You can't be shy. I mean, one thing you have to know is that if you don't ask, you don't get. And if you don't put yourself out there, no one's going to know you're out there. And I tell people, I helped a really good friend of mine, his son, get a position just as a holdover position recently. And he is really active in doing the coffees and that kind of thing. And one thing I tell him, and I tell a lot of people that are looking for jobs, just even at my level, is or everyone, is that, there's a jet stream out there way above us. It kind of flows around the earth constantly and very fast. And you kind of have to get into the jet stream of job seekers and people that are looking in order for you to find something. And once you do, once you start doing that, it's second nature. It's like you will build a net. Once you get used to it, you build networks, and it's only a matter of time before somebody will notice you. And it takes a lot of practice. You have to go through a lot of reps to talk to people, to anticipate the questions that they're going to ask you. And you're not going to get it right in the first coffee. You might screw it up and say something, and you're going to go back and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I said that." But you learn from that each time and each interaction, and so you start getting really good at it. It's really good practice for interviewing, and I think so. My friend's son, he got a really great job in an area that he wanted to be in, which is real estate consulting and management consulting, and it's really difficult to do that right out of school. But he was able to do it because he stuck to it. He did something else to pay the bills for a while, and did exactly what you're saying, was just meet people. And one of those came through at one point.
What I'm saying, you're kind of advising people to build those models, right? Kind of like be prepared, have the script, then you can come up to the person and say, "Hey, this, and this."
Well, you still have to be authentic, though.
Okay.
You can't build a script, but once you go through a lot of those conversations, you start to understand what people are looking for and how you hold yourself and how you approach them. And it's just, everything is experience. Getting to know people, you just have to go through a lot of different reps in order to kind of find how you respond authentically to the different input, like the different questions that are being asked. And I think, just like I said earlier, grit and perseverance, you just got to keep going. And like I said, if you don't put yourself out there, no one's going to know who you are. And so I think it's very important to build the networks. Use LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is a big thing, you think?
I mean, LinkedIn, I've gotten most of my last several jobs through LinkedIn. And so I think that, and some of them I reached out, some of them people just reached out. But it was because I had worked somewhere or knew somebody that they knew or whatever. And once people make those calculations and say, "Oh, well, Michael, you know him and I know that person," or "You know her and I know her, and she wouldn't be friends or associate with somebody that, I wouldn't like." And so it's important to do that.
So you think it's okay, let's say, if you know somebody and I'm kind of interested in talking to that person, come to you and say, "Hey, Richard, would you like to introduce me to that person?" Either like,
I think good people are more than willing to do that.
Okay.
I mean,
you
asked me to come to the podcast. I think this is, one of your first ones or something.
Yeah, that's the first one.
I think it's great. I think I love what you're going to do, and I want to help you.
Thank you.
If you run into people that don't want to help, then they're not worth speaking to begin with.
Yeah, so basically surround yourself with those people. But where to find them? It's kind of like a lot of people, I'm kind of like blessed that I know a lot of people like you, let's say, right? Who are kind of succeeded, and you are like general counsel, you're a compliance chief officer. He was doing that for 25 years,
Well,
but
not all of that stuff. I mean, It took a long time to get general counsel and chief compliance officer, and it's not something you necessarily like work toward. It just kind of happens over time that you get the experience and you know the people. But I think people are flattered in many ways when they're asked for help. If you ask them for help. And so I think if you're talking to the right people, they'll be more than happy to help you, but they should also be honest with you and give you the limits of what they can do, and always know that. But yeah, I think that you have to reach out to people. It's like I said, if you're going to send a resume to somebody that you've never known, and it's an AI probably that's going to sift through it, and it's not even a person, what's better? Try to find a person that works at that company that you're looking for, and connecting with them and saying, "Hey, I see you have XYZ role available. I'm very interested in that." They may not respond to you, but they may. Okay. And you have to take the shot.
What do you think about this idea in LinkedIn when you are kind of messaging people and you're like, hey, we went to the same school, or hey, I saw on your profile that you do that type of sport, and you're trying to build the connection based on that kind of like similarity between you and that person?
I think that's one of the main ways you make a connection with people, is by finding something common between you and them. And they may not respond, but the ones that do, well, then you kind of have an opportunity there, and you should explore it. And I get, and I'm sure you do, and I get emails constantly from LinkedIn, and most of them are trying to sell me something, or something that's not what you're talking about. But the ones that email me and take the time and say, oh, I went to Marquette, or I went to wherever, or you did, I always respond to them and see how I can help. And if I can help them, fine. Sometimes we just agree to, hey, I'll keep an eye out for you. And if something comes up, if somebody contacts me about something, a job that they're looking for, and if I know somebody, if it fits your description, I'll send them to you. And so you have to lay the groundwork. It's laying the foundation and getting to know a lot of people to help you do that.
But at the same time, you have to know those hard skills, right? So you can't be just the guy who mastered his soft skills and you're trying to get,
Right. I mean, there are a lot of those, but I think that the person, you have to vet people too and make sure that what they say their experience. If it's somebody out of college, they don't have any experience, but they have a lot of interest and drive. And so those people are different. If they have some soft skills and if they're a nice person and they have good personality, well, that's and they did well at their school and they're interested and passionate about something, whatever they want to get into, and you can feel that as the person that's being asked, that helps. At the same time, if it's somebody who's really, really experienced, you want to do your due diligence on them and check out, did they actually do all of these things? Did they work at these firms? Because people that are going to go to bat for you, like if somebody calls me and I'm going to go to bat for them, I want to make sure that they have the baseline skill set to do the job. And by the way, I think they'd be great with your clients, or they'd really fit into your culture and that sort of thing because of how they presented themselves. It's like very multifaceted.
So, and I would like to transition more to the environment that you work in, like corporate environment. A lot of people know that it's kind of sometimes can be harsh. It depends on, the company.
Depends on the company.
Yeah, it really depends on the company. Because I even know, if we want to talk about that, you had some sort of experience with that?
Of course.
Yeah,
I've had very good experiences at some firms, and then I've had not so great experiences. That's part of the deal, and you have to, at each experience though, you have to kind of take from it the good things and not harp on the bad things. When you're in a bad situation, you need to get out of it, and so there are many ways to do that. But I think that you just have to know that going in to your career, that there'll be some very, very challenging people that you deal with. There'll be people who may see you as you move up the ladder as challenges to them. They may be your boss. They may be people around you, and you have to learn how to navigate through those. And in my experience, if you are going to be successful in those types of situations, you just kind of have to move out of the way and do your best and get to know people at those kind of firms, and the rest will take care of itself. The cream of the crop rises, or the cream rises to the top, people will understand. People all see it. And so those challenging situations are just going to happen. You just have to know that they're going to happen, and you just have to stick, like I said earlier, persevere, be gritty.
Okay.
Sometimes you're going to complain about it. Sometimes it's not going to be easy, and you can't always take the higher road. And there are times where I didn't take the high road in some of those situations, and I regret, but it's part of the learning process in your career. Trying to say, you were talking about culture and the different companies and how challenge those are. In terms of being in a corporation, those are probably the most likely challenges somebody will have, especially if they're trying to if they're doing a good job, if they know what they're doing, and they're trying to get promoted, it's going to be situations like that where maybe somebody, and I'm not saying that this was this person or a couple other people that I've worked with in the past, that they may have stopped kind of continuously improving because they got to a certain point and they didn't want to put the work in. And so you have other people that are hungry, that are working hard, that are doing all the necessary things to make themselves better on a day-to-day basis. And just saying, everyone sees that at the end of the day. Everyone knows where they want to get to, and it can be harsh. People can be tough, and even your colleagues can be tough. And if you think somebody's your best friend at work, and then this hasn't happened to me, but I know people this has happened to, where a great friend at work, but you guys are vying for the same position, and they'll do what it takes. And you just have to realize that. And I think that in some companies, depending on the culture, you just kind of want to do your job and be nice to everyone, and you don't want to get too friendly with everyone. You want to just kind of be there to work and get along really well with everyone, but don't make it too personal.
Don't make it too personal. Okay,
It's not a sorority or fraternity.
Okay, I see.
It's work.
It's work. Yeah. So even if you are trying kind of to establish that type of relationships with people, you still have to keep in mind that they're actually your coworkers, and one day you may compete for that position.
Yeah, there's a lot of competition in corporate cultures, and some cultures foster competition more between other people, between people than others. But I think it's all about the culture of the company, and that's one thing I think young people should really be aware of.
Okay.
As they're trying to get into the workforce or moving jobs, that there are companies with different cultures actually do exist at firms, and you have to interview that company just like they're interviewing you.
Okay.
And so when you get an interview and you start going through the hiring process, I would say that you should ask as many questions as you can to learn as much as you can about the company and its culture and how they treat their employees, because that's going to be you at some point in time if you get the job, and you want to know you did the right thing.
Okay. And can you lay out for us those questions you have in your mind that you have to ask? Do you have something like that you?
No, I don't have anything that comes to mind, really. I think you get a vibe from people.
Okay.
And I mean, so you have to ask what's important to you. Is now that one of the big things is being remote versus going into the office. Well, what's the policy? I have worked at places recently that they were just, we're in the office 5 days a week and that's it. And you have to know that going in, and you have to be prepared for it. If there's a hierarchy, one of the things that I would ask is, what's the hierarchy like? Some firms, the person at the top, the CEO, and other people that report to them, and those layers of people, they don't necessarily talk to the junior members of the firm. You have to go through people to get up to their level. Others, it's very cordial, and it's kind of like I had one of the greatest bosses, this guy Steve Johnson and Christopher Gilkerson, both at the same firm. And Steve's, and I always steal what he says, but the more brains in the room, the better. He didn't care about how old somebody was or how many years experience they had. It's their brain that we care about, and that's why you're here. So I want to listen to everyone's ideas. Everyone's thoughts are important. And so I would ask something like that. What is it? Can you talk to the people that are higher up? Are your ideas fostered? Or is it very strict in how you can speak to people? And can you do you have to go through 5 layers before your idea, and you can't speak it. You give it to your boss, and your boss gives it here, and that is probably not the kind of place that somebody who's bright and innovative and passionate wants to be.
If you know Ray Dalio, I'm a big fan of Ray Dalio.
Yeah.
And meritocracy, the type of thing that
Ray Dalio would probably, if a young trader had an unbelievable idea, he or she would get an audience from Ray Dalio,
Okay.
right? Don't you think?
Yeah,
I mean, I would
think
think,
so.
or somebody on his, like somebody high up, they'd go, okay, let me listen to you. I think, I mean, just because if you have a great idea, I don't know. I read a little bit about Ray Dalio, but I didn't work there, so I don't know. I think where he worked was, I mean, where his firm was pretty harsh too. But it was they claim meritocracy, and so I guess you got to say what.
Would you like to
believe it.
work with Ray Dalio? And like, I know that you're in a company now, but if that was like, I don't know, like potentially in like some sort of like, I don't know.
I think his firm is fascinating. It's wildly successful, and I think it would have probably been a great experience to work there. Yeah.
Do you read any, so the books is really, it's a big point.
Yeah.
A lot of people are emphasizing on them, but I kind of feel the young generation, they don't really care about the books. We read a lot, we listen a lot to podcasts and that type of sources. But what's your take on books? And
I think, it depends. Are you thinking reading for pleasure or reading like to get yourself back? I mean, there's a lot. I don't have time to read any of that stuff. I listen to podcasts and I read kind of different periodicals, magazines, and that sort of thing to keep up on things. But I think that you have to get what you need from wherever you can get it.
Okay.
And if that's a book and you have time to sit down, or you're the type of person that can read 20, 30 pages and then put it down and then, again, come back to it and then retain it and you learn something from it, that's great. I tend to like wisdom or things like that or advice in smaller chunks. And that's how I synthesize it and try to remember it. But I think my whole thing is, as long as you're doing that and it's important for you and you're self-aware enough to go, okay, I'm not perfect. These are the things I need to work on. And you go seek out whatever you can to make yourself better in whatever areas you think, and also areas that people have told you, and you're open to that. I think it doesn't really matter where you get it from.
Your take on it, that you better be focused. It doesn't really matter, is that a book or podcast or other type of resource, as long as you take some sort of knowledge from it and benefit.
Yeah,
it's
and
okay.
It's a valid source. It's somebody that you know and you trust, and or is well known, and I think that if you can take something from it that's positive, I think that and incorporate it into your life or the way you act or perceive things, I think that that's a positive thing. It doesn't really matter where it comes from.
I see. All right. And before we finish, I would like to ask you a little bit like more like a personal questions. I know like about your family. You're actually, guys, I don't know how you do that, guys, but you are one of the like best families I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Like,
that's very nice.
So like, how did you, I know you have a wonderful wife, Jennifer. I
yeah.
hope if she watched that podcast. Hi, Jennifer. So how did you meet her and how did you establish those relationships? Because, corporate America is really hard. How did you guys get along and.
Well, so she has a very demanding job too. And, so how did we meet? I met her in college.
Okay.
I had a crush on her from the day that I saw her. My first day, it was in a woman's teacher's class her name is Barbara Bertrand. It was English. I got there late. And she was there, and so she was on my radar. Okay. I knew her and was friends throughout the years. I had tried to go out with her many, many times, and to no avail. I failed. And then she was kind of living in the same apartment building, and we started talking one day, and I made dinner for her and her roommates, and she actually said, "Oh, maybe this guy's a nice guy." And,
her roommates too.
Yeah. And so then she went out with me, and we've been together we're going to be married for 25 years in June, and then we were together for several years before that. So 30 years. I've known her. I've spent the majority of my life with her.
So I actually thought she's way younger than you
No,
are.
she's not. She looks way younger than me, but she's. But then the family. I mean, we had twins boys that 10 years ago. They're 10 years old, and I don't know. If you just come and wake up every day with love for everything you have and gratitude for what you have, it's the family part is easy. I mean, raising two boys is
Hard.
not hard, but there's a lot of challenges,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to, every time we have an issue or even one day goes by, just you remember that's that day, and you're
Okay.
gonna never get it back, and they're still kids and they still want to be around you, and we worry about when they're 15, 16 and older, when they don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
seen with us. So it's a gift. Having a family is a real gift, and we just manage how everyone else manages. They're in soccer, they're in tennis, they do things outside, and we just coordinate but we try to spend a lot of quality time together, and tell each other we love each other all the time.
All right. And so just a couple quick questions. So
Yes.
what's your favorite book or a podcast?
What's my favorite book or podcast?
Super quick.
Well, so my favorite books are like the Lord of the Rings books. I liked
Okay.
those when I was a kid. My favorite podcast is Lex Friedman. I love Lex Friedman.
Okay.
Listen to him.
So what's your dream job if not being a lawyer?
If I was good enough, I would be a tennis pro.
Okay, tennis pro.
Yeah.
I see.
I mean, I could teach now, but I'm talking about ATP Tour,
Okay.
being like one of the big three, like Roger Federer and Nadal
Okay.
and Djokovic.
I see. Okay, and
Maybe not so much Djokovic, but
Okay, and what's your dream car?
I have two.
Okay.
Ferrari F50,
Okay.
959 Porsche.
50. F50?
Yeah.
F50?
F50,
And Porsche, which one?
959. These are
Oh.
way before your time.
I guess. All right, Richard. Thank you for being on my podcast.
Of course.
Thank you for your advices. That was
You're
really
welcome.
fascinating.
Okay,
All right.
I'm glad.
I hope we'll have second, maybe
Maybe.
video.
After I watch this one, we might have
Yeah.
to do a second one.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.